Well, I'll go ahead with roll call while you're doing that, and then we're going to do the approval of the minutes. So Kathy Boyle is not here. Nakia is not here. Denise DeSimone is not here. I don't see Jim Hammond, he's not here. Billy Heilman's here. Sue Kerr, not here. Bruce Kraus, not here. Britton is here. Maria is here. Lenny is here. Richard is here. Shantae, I don't see Shantae. Christopher is here. Marcus is here. Sarah is here. Derek is not here. And Guillermo is here.
All right. Can everyone see my screen?
It needs to be enlarged.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at share the wrong one. So
Yeah, I can see it, but it's small.
yeah. Okay, zoom in. This a little bit better.
Yes.
Much, thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you, Billy, for doing the roll call. So the next part, just the reading and approval of the meeting minutes. Hopefully everyone had a chance to take a look at them. Are there any questions about it?
Well, I'll move to approve the June minutes of the LGBTQIA plus commission.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any objections? No abstentions? I believe that passes. And Billy, if there's a better way you want me to do that, let me know.
Yeah, that was fine.
So the next section, just reports of officers, boards, and standing committees. So the first one, just co-chair updates. I believe Sue had a couple on here. So Sarah, I don't know if you were planning to do those. If not, I can run through Sue's notes that were shared. All right, so the first one I have is just about the Pirates update. So Sue wanted to share that Al Hogan reached out and said they are working on details are there and about who will participate in those meetings. Looking forward to an August meeting, and reiterated that, you know, we were interested in having any commissioner who's interested join if their schedule allows, not just a few. Any questions or discussion about that? All right, so the next one was regarding the Protect Trans Kids movement. So the next hearing date is Tuesday, July 26th, and open to the public as well. So hopefully, you know, we'll see what that decision is, and a decision on a single count of summary harassment. If a guilty verdict is rendered, then appeals may also happen. The family, represented by Hugh Lane's lawyer, Nick, uses they, them pronouns, and their family is also working with the Women's Law Project and PA Human Relations Commission to kind of explore other options for defending the family. Pittsburgh LGBTQ Charities is working on distribution of Protect Trans Kid yard signs by donation. So in about a little under 4 weeks, there have been about requests for 525 signs, and by this weekend, about 500 will be distributed. So the link to request that sign, I can share that. I don't know if I have access to the chat in this meeting. I can send that around the link that Sue shared here, if you would like to request a sign. And so the community has donated about a little over $5,500 to produce those signs. 4 council members have pledged their support. Council members Wilson, Strasburger, Coghill, and Cale Smith. The family is also working with Councilmember Wilson's office on a Protect Trans Kid Day proclamation sometime in August with an eye on back to school and the active legislation. So the goal is hopefully to work with several trans youth to determine what they want to focus on this year and maybe continue through subsequent years to kind of focus on different rotating groups of trans kids' ideas being centered. And then there's another note that Sue has on here just about on Facebook, a local trans person was sharing an experience of discrimination in a local business in Lower Borough, Westmoreland County. And Sue directed that person to Hugh Lane, the Women's Project, and the PA Human Relations Commission. So all three are active and engaged on it. And the main takeaway that Sue wanted is that we might want to familiar ourselves with how these different bodies are responding to anti-trans incidents, so we can be able to be helpful resources and direct people as needed to avenues for support and help.
Marcus, did she say anything about whether or not the lawyer would be with the family during the hearing?
No, I do not see, just scanning through this really quick. I did not see anything about that. Would you want me to follow up on that?
I can answer that quickly. I mean, I know Nick will be there. I don't know how much, like, I don't want to share too much information about Hugh Lane or Hugh Lane services during this commission meeting, but I know Nick will be there to support the family at the family's request.
Okay, great. Yeah, the woman that they're pressing the charges against had a lawyer and at the first hearing, and they could have used one. So I'm glad to hear that one will be a governor. Thanks, Sarah.
And then Sue had one other note, but before moving on to this one regards Randy Land. Any other comments or questions on what I just shared above?
Marcus, what is the liability for the person doing the harassment? Do we know that, or will that be a judgment rendered by the court?
I believe the latter, but Sarah, do you happen to know?
I do not.
So we don't know if there are any like standing laws that other than freedom of speech that could be used as an argument. Just curious. I don't want to go into a litigation discussion, but I'm just hoping that there's something that will have some meat on the bone that can be used to protect the future cases like this, families.
Freedom of speech was the base of the defense. The judge, or the magistrate rather, didn't buy it. Was pretty clear about that, but the reason for the continuance was to give the defense attorney an opportunity to create a brief arguing the First Amendment piece. But the magistrate was pretty solid on the fact that she viewed that as, what they call fighting words. And that she wasn't buying that. I know the family's going for a permanent no contact order. In terms of other criminal penalties, I don't know, but I know that that's what they're hoping for.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on that as well? All right, then the last note I have from Sue is regarding a stolen yard sign from Randy Land on the north side, in addition to a verbal assault as well that a young trans woman experienced in Millvale. So Sue shared that the Millvale Pride organizers are aware, and Randy's friends witnessed the theft as well, but there wasn't exactly a clear avenue to file police report since the sign was about $12 value. So I think the big point that Sue had here was just regarding the person who stole the yard signs might have ties to the person who targeted this family. And so I think Sue wanted to have a discussion regarding whether there's like an acting liaison within, a lot of the difficult and, violent attacks that have been happening to help facilitate these type of cases. So I don't know, in terms of discussion, people want to talk about whether there's capacity within the commission or maybe to work with the mayor's office to have a liaison working within this public safety angle, especially for our community. But I think that was Sue's larger comment here.
So in terms of the public safety department component of it, we're in the final stages of hiring a new community affairs assistant director inside of public safety. So that person would then become the liaison in regards to things like this. And in terms of filing a report in this specific incident, in general, folks are going to be routed to where this incident occurred. So this would be zone 1 and the station there. I believe that's like off of Brighton Road and California Avenue would be the place to do that. But also note that the victim in this Randy Land, unless they were willing to file the report as the people who had their property stolen, there wouldn't be much to be done to that. In terms of that, so that's one of the things to be mindful of. So obviously we're looking at these things moving forward on what we can do, and hopefully we'll be able to talk soon about bringing on board the community affairs person inside of public safety to be a part of these broader conversations and to be a resource and support for community members moving forward.
Got it. Thank you. That's helpful to know. Any questions or comments on that?
Yep, Maria, did you indicate a timeline on that?
Soon. So there's a couple of different positions that we're hiring on soon. So we're not in a position to say an exact specific timeline when the person will be onboarded. But we believe relatively soon we'll be able to have that person in place.
Any other questions or comments before moving on? All right, so the next part I have is just the secretary's report.
Yeah, the only item I want to just make note of, and I'll put the dates in the minutes to be sent out and to do reminders is regarding our calendar. So our standard is for 2022 is to have our regular meetings on the third Thursday at 5:30 p.m. And that's why we're here now. And the executive committee meets 2 weeks in advance on the first Thursday to prepare the agenda, give us some time to get the agenda out and some time hopefully for you to have some feedback on it. You can always, if you can always bring an agenda item to a regular meeting, and the agenda can be modified at the beginning of a meeting, or perhaps something that you bring might be in announcements, but certainly things can be added to new business. And if we've omitted something, it could be added to unfinished business when at the beginning of a meeting. So if you don't get an opportunity or something comes up suddenly that you want on our agenda, you have that opportunity. The August meeting will be on the 18th. Then we have a couple that are going to feel a little bit earlier because we have a couple months that the first is a Thursday. So the September meeting will be the 15th. The October meeting will be the 20th. The November meeting will be the 17th and the December meeting will be the 15th because the 1st is a Thursday. So they're a little bit earlier in the month on average than they have been, but they're always the 3rd Thursday, and we'll get the invites out to you and the notices, in time so that people have them. But if you want to mark your calendars, go ahead and do that. Then at some point later in the year, we will review whether we want to follow this pattern for 2023. I think we did that at the December meeting in 21 that just moved forward our Thursday pattern. That's it.
Billy, what was the November meeting date?
The November meeting date is the 17th.
Okay. I do have a conflict, but it's not a big deal. So I will not be able to be attending that one. So. But we're far enough in advance to, hopefully have a quorum for all of these meetings.
Yes, we're doing well tonight on the quorum because 3 people who are here almost every month are absent. So this is a good showing for our commission tonight.
Any other questions or comments on the calendar? All right, next up I have then is the treasurer's report. So Guillermo, if you had anything there.
Sure. I was not able to connect with Maria between the last meeting and this meeting. During the last meeting, she was going to check on for us regarding the budget and the availability of the money. Sorry if I'm putting her on the spot or not, but I just was not able to connect before the meeting. So if she's present, I'm driving, so I can't really tell if she's present, but if she's present, I don't know if she has any kind of update for us regarding that.
So the update I do have is we are in the process, and hopefully by the time the next meeting happens, we'll have a staff person in place who will be the budgeted staff person for the commission. So I'll be reaching out to the executive committee in the next couple of weeks to have a conversation about that role, what that looks like, and the potential finalists that we have lined up for that, with the hope then that that person would become, be able to attend these meetings and be able to relay, the day-to-day staffing needs of the commission and the work that it's doing.
Maria, would we have a budget beyond that staff budget?
We're still looking into that. It is my understanding that beyond the staff budget that does not exist. So, we're in the budgeting season. So one of the things about being able to bring on the staff person on board is to have a conversation about what the potential budget could look like and the needs for the commission in terms of budgeting beyond what might be available to the staff person's role and their work in helping the work of the commission move forward.
I think that needs to be an agenda item for the future because I know there are certain projects that, like town halls and whatever, that we would want to have some money for, depending on how it's designed and, worked out. So.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'll just continue to reinforce to remind folks that we're no longer an advisory committee. We're an actual official commission of the city of Pittsburgh. So there are some existing city resources that we could use to do those things and run those things that wouldn't cost additional money in terms of the budget. So, during a town hall meeting, we have access to facilities to help, make those happen in terms of locations throughout the city where we could put together town hall meetings for in-person events or using the infrastructure that we're, running our commission meetings off of. So, some of those items can be taken care of We have a platform called Engage PGH, which allows us to run surveys and community engagement off of. So we wouldn't need a supplemental program in order to put together a community engagement to solicit feedback from a portal that already exists within the existing city infrastructure. So some of those items is thinking beyond what we would need from a budget as a standalone committee to what resources are available to us as an official commission of the city.
That's helpful to know, Maria. I think just, we can keep that in mind, reduce costs, work as efficiently as possible. So I think that's good to know, especially as we start building out some of the work we do. So we'll keep that in mind.
And then I guess one final item from Mayor's office report. I just wanted to lift this up specifically. The transgender name change project through the Transgender Legal Defense and Education Fund was recently reactivated in Pittsburgh this past week. So if there's an opportunity for the commission members to highlight and lift up this valuable resource to the community in terms of providing name change services to the trans and non-binary community who wish to do so. I know there's a considerable amount of barriers to accessing that in terms of financial and legal costs to that. So it would be beneficial for us as a commission to move something over that could really help improve the material conditions of a lot of people in our community.
Any questions or comments or anything else before moving from the treasurer's report or what Maria shared?
I see Sarah's hands up. Sarah?
That, sorry about that. I'll make sure I lower that, but that was from earlier.
Okay.
All right, so moving on to the outreach coordinators report. So planning to have the website launched July 31st, but we actually recently just got some helpful research from the city law. And Maria, I don't know if you were on this email, or if you've seen it, but I can forward it. And this was regarding the commission question we had about what types of language do we have to allow to stand on our social media, and what can we hide, and those kind of things, and what are different qualifications within that. So we got a detailed report, so I need to earlier this week, so I'm going to look through that, but that should help us guide, I think, what we use our social media for. So I think we can start to move forward with some posting and things on it, so that'll time nicely with getting the website up and running, or the web page rather, on the city page. And then thankfully, Billy helped me point out, I unfortunately was sending to the wrong email. Got tripped up on the PGH LGBTQIA plus commission emails. So a couple of you I'm still waiting on just a quick bio and headshots on. So I'll be sending up an email after this to follow up with those of you I'm still waiting for that from. So my bad on that, and I'll send that email out after this meeting to get that up. And then, as we move forward with the page as well, if anything is helpful to post on there or think about, just let me know. And we, Maria thankfully helped us connect to the city person who can help us get that done. So we'll have a good relationship there. The update is needed. All right. If no questions or comments there, the next thing, just moving to the nomination election committee. I believe now that we have an open position, there's going to be nomination. I'll let you go, Billy.
Yeah, I'll just introduce this. So the person on our commission who has some bylaw responsibility in overseeing, in assisting with a selection process is the liaison to the mayor's office. So that's Maria, who helped last time. And also, unless Lenny is interested in the outreach coordinator position, he's shaking his head no, then perhaps because of his now fine-tuned expertise in helping with this, could help, he and Maria can help do this. What we can do tonight that we couldn't do last time is to do the poll rather than having to send an email. So Heather, if she's paying attention, we're getting ready to do that. But when I hand it over to Lenny and Maria, it's just to open up the nominations for the outreach coordinator position, which is one of the 6 officer positions and is now vacant because of Marcus's move to the co-chair position. So with that, Heather's going to assist us in a moment with setting up a poll after the nominations are made. The name or names will be on the poll along with the option to abstain. And then the person with the greatest number of votes would become the outreach coordinator. Lenny, you can take over with the rest of that.
Hey, everyone. All right, so again, we're going to elect an outreach coordinator this evening. Anyone, of course, can nominate.
I don't know that one.
Well, neither does my Alexa, apparently. Sorry about that. If anyone has a nomination or would like to nominate themselves, please say so.
I have a nomination, and I spoke with her prior, and she said that she would accept it if nominated, and that is Denise DeSimone.
Excellent, because I was going to ask you about her.
Yeah.
When you were done speaking, that would have been my nomination as well. Are there any other nominees? Okay. So
From
if
a-
we could get- go
From
ahead.
a point of order perspective, Billy, did she put in writing that you have the ability to accept the nomination on her behalf? I feel a little uncomfortable nominating somebody and voting for somebody without having confirmation that they accept the nomination.
No, all you have is my word on it. I don't have it in writing. I spoke with her on the phone. She did accept the nomination in person the first time we had a selection process for outreach coordinator. Marcus prevailed in that selection process, but all you have is my testimony that I spoke with her on the phone yesterday.
If there's no objection here, I will accept your testimony, Billy, as proof of her willingness to accept the nomination.
Can I second that nomination? Do we need that?
Not for nomination, Richard, but noted.
Okay.
Thank you. And I'll third it.
All right.
So again, any other nominations before we move to voting? Okay, not seeing any. If we could have the poll, please, Heather.
Absolutely.
votes.
Just give me a second.
Thank you very much.
And just while that's being set up, so Sarah Rosso did have an obligation where she would need to step away. Well, I'll say this after this, so you're not distracted.
Will we all see the results of the poll?
Well, we didn't discuss with Heather or Bill on how, well, now we are seeing it.
There you go.
How we do it there. Get the
Thank you, Heather.
results to Lenny and
Sorry,
Maria.
guys. I know I just threw that up there. I was like thinking to myself, oh shoot, they didn't tell me whether to share it on screen or not. Sorry.
Appreciate it.
I can take it down, but I
No,
mean,
we're
I
good.
already threw it up.
No, we're fine. All right, so
Well, one thing, Heather, can you determine like the numbers? All we see is 75 and 25. So, maybe only,
Oh, okay. Yeah. So under Denise's name, it's 6 out of 8 votes. And under abstention, it's 2 out of 8 votes. And it says that only 8 of the 9 participated.
I missed the poll. I was making some notes, so I missed that. Sorry. Can I verbally say this or? do
We can
need to-
redo it too.
Sorry about that.
I would think a verbal vote would suffice, wouldn't it, Billy?
I don't object.
Okay. I would be a yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
so that would be eight and 4 in favor of Denise and 1 abstention, correct?
No, I think there's still 2 abstentions and now there's
Yeah,
7.
there's 2
Oh, okay.
abstentions. So it would be 7 out of 8 voted yes, and 2 out of 8 voted abstention.
Thank you very much.
Out of 9 each time, but that's okay.
There you go. All right, so congratulations to Denise.
Congrats.
Ooh, all right.
I'll let her know. I told her I would let her know after our meeting.
Thank you for speaking to her, Billy.
Okay, can everyone see the agenda again? Then Billy, anything we need to do to move out of it, or we can go to the next section? All right, so next one I think also was a Sue item. So we're going to look at Sue's notes. So regarding the municipal ordinance working group, Sue reached out to the Pennsylvania Youth Congress to determine if they have a workshop template in place and what role they can help with kind of shaping this. So I think it's stay tuned on that. But if anyone has any questions, we can talk about that now, or I can ask Sue to kind of follow up later.
Well, I want to just add in, I think, for anybody who is interested in being part of organizing this, what is going to be some sort of workshop, I suppose, whatever it looks like, commissioners who are interested in making this happen and be fruitful and hopefully well advertised and attended, however we do present it, in person or Zoom or both. Think about contacting Sue to join this working group so that this can be a success.
Any other questions, or if you're interested, we can note now, we can pass along to Sue as well. All right. So moving into unfinished business, plumbing code issues. So that's on my list to follow up with. So I don't have any update on that currently. Next, the PA local legislative policy update on anti-LGBTQIA plus actions. So Sue had this one as well. A couple questions that she had in terms of this. So the notes shared were that Netroots Nation will be in Pittsburgh from August 8th to the 20th. About 3,000 progressives. There will be an LGBTQ lounge and the vendor space that's accepting literature and promotional materials from all local LGBTQ orgs to display. So there are a few panels and possibly an LGBTQ caucus, some scholarships for those who are who need them and who would like to attend as well. So if anyone's interested in that, you can reach out. You can send me an email after this or now, and I can pass along to Sue as well, or feel free to email Sue directly.
Marcus, I think all of us should get that information. Would that be an issue?
No, I think that, yeah, I'll note that. I'll reach out to Sue after this and ask for that information.
And you can just Google, Netroots Nation and get their website, and the registration form is, on the main page, are very easily accessible because of the conference in Pittsburgh, August 18th to 20th. And registering is a good idea too.
Yeah, I'll send that link out, and that's a good point. If you just Google or search Netroots Nation 2022, it should come up pretty easily. We can include that probably in the minutes, Billy, but I also can send that out after this meeting as well. So Sue did have a question on this and wanted to see whether the commission would be interested in creating a simple handout to distribute here and get promotional materials process rolling. So kind of an open question there in terms of what people might think makes sense to put on this as well, but we have a little bit of time, so don't need an immediate answer now, but Maria, maybe this is a question for, in terms of getting to like the resources that might be accessible to us as a commission is, do we have access to any graphic design or printing resources for that if we wanted to do this?
Yeah, let's touch base afterwards when we know a little bit more about what we're looking for.
Sounds good. So anyone feel any, and I think it probably does make sense, but, thinking about what will we, I guess first, yeah, does it make sense? Do people feel like it makes sense to create a handout for this?
Absolutely. And I would put them in my business, and I would think it would be great to distribute them to any other businesses in general, but especially bars and other LGBTQ establishments.
Yeah.
And if we are on target for our website launch and going live with Facebook, we could include that on the flyer or whatever it would be, probably a one pager right now. As well as that we're live on YouTube or at least recorded every third Thursday of the month. That could be on there also. And maybe a list of our names.
Yeah, I agree. A one-page trifold would be perfect.
Yeah, I think it's important to have information out about the commission, like I was saying in the meeting last month, and also nowadays everybody uses digital and virtual, so having a digital piece that all the commissioners can share whenever they have conversations with anyone, I think that will be important. Part of the duties of the commission will be good.
So would anyone feel, so I think not to establish a formal working group, but maybe having a group of people responsible. I know it does kind of fall within outreach, but while we're still kind of building that out, especially without Denise here, anyone particularly interested in helping out with that? Whether maybe even interest in designing a flyer or a quick handout. I think anything like that would be helpful.
I would be interested in helping, not with graphics, but I know the city, when we had the advisory council, did print and had that resource for us. But I would definitely like to have some input, and I'm sure Denise would help spearhead that too.
Thank you, Richard. And then I volunteer, I'm happy to help as well.
I'll get, you know what, I'll get that started with just putting something on paper, electronic paper for, listening to Guillermo, but and get that to everybody for feedback to get it started. Denise the reason she's not here is she just started her vacation. And so she's traveling outside of the country. So I don't know that, she's going to lead this right now, but we're going to need to do this fast, if we're going to have something at Netroots Nation.
And it will be easier to have like a Google Doc where everybody can just write a section. Having a person that does graphic doesn't matter in the beginning if there's no content in what we want to communicate. So I think it's important that we have what are the main messages that we want to have in this piece. Let's work on those. And once that's done, then the graphic designer will just create something nice. But the most important about having a document is the message and the content that it will be in this piece. So I think that's something that we can work immediately.
And then Jam, Maria, I see you both have your hand up. So Jam, maybe you want to go first.
I was just gonna say that I can help, but there are already a lot of people on, it seems like. So the thing that I think I'm most useful to contribute is probably closer to the graphic side. So if that's something that I can help with, I am, available. I don't know what the city has in terms of, graphic software. The Commission on Human Relations has a Canva account that I think it would be appropriate to share access. So if that's something that would be helpful, I think that would be appropriate.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think it's definitely helpful, especially since we're gathering it. We'll take all the help we can get. So I think, especially graphic design wise. So that sounds good to me. And then Maria, I see you still have your hand up.
Yeah, I think in terms of what this piece should be, I think it's really critical, and I've yet to see this, and maybe it does exist somewhere in writing, and I just haven't seen it. Was like, what is the mission and the purpose of the commission? Because I think there's a lot of general confusion about that in the broader community about that, and if we're going to have a lit piece to hand people, that needs to be front and center more than anything else. Mission, values, members, contact us. Right? It could be as simple as that. Anything else is, to be frank, nobody's going to read a one-pager. It's just not going to happen as you're handing somebody something in a brief conversation at a convention or wherever else it may be. But if we're able to clearly articulate what the mission, values, purpose of the commission is, that's going to get people to want to reach out to get more involved, or to go to the website, or to contact for more information.
Maria, this could be taken from our bylaws, because we really spent a lot of time on a mission statement.
If I can maybe add briefly, I think, the reason that I say would be more helpful on the graphic side is because of Maria's point. I think that I would be confused as to what content would go on the one pager. And as far as purpose, I think we have spelled out a lot of things in the bylaws, but I think what is sometimes a little bit unclear is what is it that we're offering the community? Like, why will they contact us? And I think that's what needs to come through in a document like this, because otherwise it's like, okay, great, there's a commission and I use this, how? And then the message is kind of lost and we don't actually truly achieve reach of that information.
I think that's a good point. To keep in mind that, what are we offering? So maybe, I think, Billy, if your offer still stands, take a first draft at it and send out to our group. We can kind of keep editing that and stay on track for having this ready to distribute.
Yeah, and we'll do it in the Google Doc format. As Guillermo suggested, I think that's a good idea. And in that, you can put content in, but you can also put comments in. You can select and put a comment in rather than just adding comments. So looking at a Google Doc gives you the opportunity for your input, just in terms of what's there, without having to author something. Both those activities are important.
I think we also, in terms of legal, need to know what our limits are in terms of language for getting out the vote. So we need to know that before we finalize this too.
So in general, as an
Yeah.
official city thing, we can encourage people to vote, to participate in voting, provide information on how to register, where to register, how to update your registration status. We cannot advocate for specific candidates. We can't tell people who to vote for. We simply can just encourage people to participate in the process of voting. We could do things like scorecards. If we know, where people stand, we can, do issues-based conversations such as, and sort of highlight where people stand on issues. But again, the cleanest, clearest thing to do would just be basic civic engagement around voting.
That's a good point. I think also, keeping, in mind, I think, Jam, your point about what are we offering to the community, especially, is this one of our big opportunities to have an event where we advertise and reach out to people, keeping in mind what we're offering and have that as a quick, clear takeaway. So that sounds good. We'll keep that timeline in mind. And then Maria, I think we can talk a little bit too, just about in terms of like printing or making sure we're have these available at the event, making sure we have enough time to get that distributed or ready for distribution.
And are folks in general familiar with what Netroots Nation is? I'll take the silence as probably maybe a no, but it is the nation's largest progressive activist sort of conference in the country. So this is predominantly going to be attended from outside of the Pittsburgh region, bringing in a lot of national attention to the city and as well as to Pennsylvania as a whole. In the past, keynote speakers have included, President Barack Obama, Senator Elizabeth Warren, Mayor Ed Gainey will be one of the keynote speakers this year, highlighting our administration's work on violence prevention that we engaged with earlier this year. So, in terms of like who the audience for this piece is, just be mindful, like vast majority of the attendees at an event like this aren't necessarily going to be folks who would take our resources on a day-to-day basis, but folks who in general are active in political and organizational building capacities.
Maria, do you know percentage-wise or numbers-wise, how many people would be from the LGBTQ community?
I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I could reach out to the event organizers to see if they have an idea of what that might look like.
And Maria, I believe there's also a virtual for if you're interested in attending virtually. Is there a virtual option for those as well?
I believe so. I do know that this is their first in-person version of this in a couple of years. So there's a lot of energy around that as well.
Yeah, and it's at the David Lawrence Convention Center as well. Just that.
Yep, correct.
So I'll send a link out after this meeting as well, just for those of you to access and take a look at. And then we'll keep in mind that August 18th deadline for getting something together to be able to distribute there. Anything else should think about or talk about as part of this? All right. Make sure I didn't miss anything else on Sue's notes. Believe that's it. So next one is just about get out the vote. Bill, I might need you to help me fully remember what this one was about. I know, it's important. I want to encourage getting ready to vote, especially with elections approaching and a lot of the different legislation and things happening. So very, very important times to vote. I don't know if there was something specific to that. Sue or someone had that here.
Yeah, at the executive committee meeting, we put this on the agenda because last year when we had it on the agenda, it was so close. The way voting happens now, there's a good number of people who do mail-in ballots, which, changes the timeline on things in terms of getting out the vote. So if the commission is doing something like Maria just said, just encouraging people to participate and to be registered, perhaps to know the deadlines and how to get a mail-in ballot and those types of things, that if we were going to do it, that we should start talking about it now, because it's all of a sudden it's going to be too late because of the way things are sort of accelerated by mail-in voting. So it's just to put the issue on the table for our commission that, engaging in this is important.
And I think given our social media, some of the ones, given what we've received back from city law, I think making sure that we're following, nonpartisan, just focusing on getting out the vote, that's something we can share on our social media as well. So that'll be a good opportunity there. Anything else, any ideas or things regarding getting out the vote that helpful to discuss?
I think we also need to connect with all of the colleges to make sure that the commission has a presence and they know that we are around. And this is one of the initiatives that we're doing.
It's a good reminder. Thank you. Anything else? All right, so next, just moving into announcements. So we had two specific ones we wanted to do here, but actually, I guess before I go to that, anything else for new business that people would want to talk about? We're moving into announcements. Jam, I see your hand up.
I have one thing, and anyone stop me if it's not appropriate. I had sent, or that we don't want to talk about it here. I had sent a couple of emails. I'm not sure if there's like not an interest or if it maybe is being discussed. But I sent the emails as Commission on Human Relations Director. Basically, we're looking to open an RFP into to invite contractors to apply to do research into housing barriers for LGBTQIA plus people in Pittsburgh. And I wanted to know if this commission was interested in working with the Commission on Human Relations on that. I'm sorry about the dogs.
Jim, I think I'm remembering, I don't know, feel whenever you have a chance to unmute or
yeah, that was all I was basically going to say. Sorry.
I think it would make sense. I think I misinterpreted it when I read your email. I'm trying to remember back to it, but I think that would make sense in terms of a partnership to work together on that.
Okay. I mean, do you have any questions for me about it, or do you want me to say anything more about it, or?
Yeah, maybe just a little bit more on the background of it. And if it makes sense too, if you want to re-forward your email to the commission afterwards, we could do that as well, but maybe just share a little bit of background about the initiative and goals for it.
Yeah, so we actually released the RFP and didn't get as many responses as we wanted to. So we closed it without a vendor. But essentially, right when the Bostock decision had first passed, we wanted to find out the degree to which that decision passing might affect the number of complaints that we see, and also to determine, I'm sorry. I think I'm gonna move rooms to determine the degree to which LGBTQIA plus Pittsburghers experience discrimination. So we opened the RFP and we only got a response for one vendor, and we closed it back up, and now we want to resubmit the RFP. It's paid through CBDG funding, which the commission receives an annual allotment of. And we are looking to see if maybe we should change the RFP to some extent to look at the scope of what we're asking. Originally, it was basically what I had just said, but I think we would be open to looking at new questions if there were questions that the LGBTQIA plus commission would be interested in asking. And I guess I'm getting into what type of partnership type activities we'd be looking for. Basically anything that the LGBTQIA plus commission would be interested in, from designing what we're looking for in the RFP, what questions are we asking the researchers to develop and design, how we market the RFP to actually reach vendors who would be interested in this topic and who would be appropriate to conduct the research, to in the actual after selection of a vendor, giving them feedback and design and making sure that the project is appropriate for the community, and then releasing results, marketing results, and determining what to do with results of such research. So that would be essentially the whole process.
So Jim, would you mind maybe when you re-forward the email just to also include the RFP, the one that was closed? I'm sorry if you already did that from before, but
no, I didn't. I will.
Okay. And then you mentioned that it uses CDBG funds. So is there, I know there's like a lot of requirements around what you can do in terms of that process. So is there anything also in terms of that funding source that would be helpful to keep in mind?
Well, it does have to relate to fair housing. So that's the condition under which we receive our CBD funding, is that what we're doing with it supports fair housing. And so there does have to be a fair housing component. That's why it's based in the fair housing research and barriers to fair housing. But I think that if it does have a fair housing component that's significant, other questions can be asked. So it's a little bit different than the rest of CBDG funding. I mean, because we're specifically meeting that fair housing component, and that's the restriction that we're bound by.
Got it. Thank you for that. Any questions or comments or anything like that?
For the clarity of the minutes on this conversation moving forward, Jim, can you abbreviate what the funding source is from CBD to what those letters stand for?
Yeah, Community Development Block Grant. And also the RFP was the request for proposals.
Any other questions about that before moving into announcements or new business that people would like to consider? All right. So if not, we had two on here. So the first one was about remembering Jay Poliziani, a longtime advocate within the Pittsburgh community. I believe there was also a Post-Gazette obituary that went out earlier this month that does a really great job at summarizing and highlighting a lot of the work that James did. So I think a couple of things I just tried to note, was involved with ACT UP, and a big part in that work and reaching out to local funeral homes to see if they would work with AIDS patients or those who were HIV positive, as well as also being a member, director of the Northside Common Ministries, and working to make sure that the shelter was very inclusive and reaching out to the LGBTQIA plus community. I can also, I don't know if Sue, I know Sue also has mentioned a bit in the article, and I can't remember if Sue already sent it around, but I can send that out as well if that would be of interest to people. And then if anyone else wanted to add anything as well.
Yep, yeah, I'll add this. You know, I knew Jay, I knew him. I guess it's more than 30 years ago. It wasn't ACT UP. ACT UP had not. We hadn't adopted ACT UP as a name. We had the name of a queer activist group called Cry Out, and then we adopted ACT UP. So we became the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power local chapter in about 1990, but from 1988, for 88 and 89, we were Cry Out. And that's when Jay came to those meetings, and the funeral home. So I started the funeral home initiative, called it a funeral home action group. And he and I called every funeral home in the yellow pages. It was over 200. It was quite remarkable, but it was a huge number. And we did we had a script, so we did it similarly. He must have called half of them, but we got data on every single funeral home on whether they would be problematic for a family or people who cared for somebody who was dying of AIDS and whose death was imminent, whether they would want to use their business. And I can tell you by far the majority of them we would steer people away from. We took all the information, we gave it to the Pittsburgh AIDS Task Force. We, created a catalog of it and gave it to the Pittsburgh AIDS Task Force. But some of the things that funeral directors said to us was, oh, we could not have an open casket. No, we can't do an open casket funeral if somebody has AIDS. We don't want the AIDS spores to get in the air. And things like just absolutely startling things were being said at that time. It was really quite upsetting, but Jay persevered through it. We persevered and we got the information and shared it. He was one of the most determined and calm and centered persons I've ever met in my life. He's just really quite remarkable and always defended people in our community in every instance.
Thank you for sharing that, Billy. Anything else anyone would like to share or just comment about? So then the last thing I have is just regarding Pittsburgh Black Pride. So I believe, Christopher, you shared around earlier, I think to the email group regarding the announcement that Maya's coming, as well as also some of the events. So that link is on, or sorry, someone say something?
Yes, that's me, Marcus.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. So definitely we're very excited for next weekend, which will be our 27th annual Pittsburgh Black Pride. And so those of you who are familiar may know that Pittsburgh Black Pride is the longest running pride celebration in Western Pennsylvania. So we're very excited about that and very happy to actually invite Maya, who's a Grammy Award singer who has sold over 8 million albums worldwide, who'll be coming to Pittsburgh to celebrate our 27th annual Pittsburgh Black Pride with us. But in terms of our events that we're having for the weekend, our opening reception will take place at 5801 on Thursday, the 28th, which would be from 6 to 8. To be music and food as well there to be able to kind of kick off our Pride festivities. So we hope that you can join us at 5801 on Thursday. Then Friday, as I mentioned, will be our first ever Pittsburgh Black Pride concert, which will be held at the August Wilson Cultural Center in downtown Pittsburgh. The show begins actually at 7 p.m. We will have a few variety opening acts who are local Pittsburgh artists who identify with the community as well. So they'll be opening for Maya. And of course, she'll be the headliner for that Friday evening. And following that on Saturday, we're also having our annual cookout or picnic event that we have at Shinley Park, which will be near the Prospect Shelter. And that will be on Saturday, the 30th from 2 to 7. And there's also a variety of other parties and events that will be taking place over the course of the weekend. We're just really excited to really just expand the brand of Pittsburgh Black Pride in the community. We're currently undergoing some rebranding as well. And just really happy to celebrate 27 years as the longest running Pride celebration here in Western Pennsylvania. And just happy to bring an artist here to really celebrate our history, our rich heritage, and really just looking towards the future. So hopefully each of you can join us. We would love for you to attend as well. We may even also have a few tickets for the show. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out and we can see what we can do for you. But again, it's going to be a very exciting time, a very exciting weekend as we celebrate our 27 years and really looking towards the future, really elevating Pittsburgh Black Pride for years to come.
Thank you, Christopher. I know I got my tickets, so I'm ready. So I'm looking forward to it.
It'll be a great weekend, a great night.
Anyone have any questions or anything?
Marcus, can I talk about one quick project?
Yes. No other questions? Then yeah, let's move on to it.
I met with Councilperson Strasburger about the Ellsworth mural that is slowly disintegrating. And there is a discussion that we will have about a replacement. And we're moving into talking about a permanent piece of public art that I will spearhead a committee that will be done through private funding. If the city can help, we will have a discussion about that also. But it'll be a discussion with the Shadyside Chamber of Commerce, other local stakeholders, probably 5801. So there are ideas floating around of how we would want to do it other than a street mural that because of the traffic on Ellsworth disappears. And we feel there's a lot of history that has happened on our street here that we want to acknowledge why a lot of important announcements and other important things that happen for our community are sort of centered here as much as we can. And I just wanted to let the commission know that this is happening. It's also a discussion happening with the Art Commission. So there's a lot of interfacing with different city organizations. But I just want to let everybody know that this is going to hopefully happen, and I will encourage it happening in a very visible way.
So 2 quick follow-up questions on that, Richard. I think if anyone's interested in, providing comments or something like that regarding what this may look like, is there an RFP or RFQ like in the work for that?
Not yet. We haven't gone that far, but because it could be something that we are proposing, we will have it hopefully open to a queer artist. And it is something that the city cannot initiate, but if our community, as in terms of the Shadyside organization, initiates it, then we can sort of recommend artists, or to also have artists submit proposals, but we haven't gone that far yet. They would need to know a budget. They would need to know the other, so the RFP would say all of that.
Got it. Okay.
I'm just making it as, I just wanted to have our commission be aware that there is a concern to still acknowledge our community on Ellsworth.
Is the replacement idea because of the sort of the life of the current
Yeah.
piece of art is
It-
its end. The replacement, is it different than the permanent piece that you spoke of? Or
It
is
would be,
that the same thing?
I see it as a permanent piece that would be a replacement.
Okay.
Councilperson Strasburger asked me if there was an issue because Ellsworth was just repaved. And a lot of the repavement cut into the existing artwork, which was almost gone to begin with. So there's discussion to repave over that section of it too.
Thanks, Richard. And then I guess my only other quick follow-up was about, in terms of the stakeholders and that you're engaging with, I guess would it make sense, if people have comments or things to reach out to you just in this, information gathering process, but also just
Yeah.
wanting to make sure we, consider everyone and be as inclusive in that as possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. Unfortunately, the rush to create a work and the last time left out a lot of stakeholders, and it caused a lot of friction in the community. And I want to avoid that as much as possible. So if anybody has any questions, definitely reach out to me. But this will be an ongoing process that will become more public to our community, so everybody can have an opportunity to give us feedback.
Thank you, Richard. Any questions, comments on that? All right. Any other announcements or things that people want to share with the group? All right. If not, I think we need a motion to adjourn.
So
Go ahead, Billy.
I said so moved. If you have a second, we could take a vote.
Any seconds?
Second.
All right. See everybody. Maybe see some of you next week. Take care.
Thank you, John.